JP Morgan Chase is the largest US bank by assets, and it was founded by Pierpont Morgan in 1895. That's some time ago.
Indeed. So I think everybody knows that old man JP Morgan was at some point the wealthiest guy in the world, and he was the one who stepped in 1929 and stabilized markets. The bank also grows through acquisitions over its long history, and most significantly acquires Chase Manhattan Bank, which is a major retail player in the United States of America in the year 2000. I think people are also quite familiar with their CEO, good-looking alpha male Jamie Dimon. And of course, this one is headquartered on Park Avenue in New York City.
Market cap here, $256 billion, trades on a PE of 12.8, dividend yield of 2.5. So how does JP Morgan stack up against Wells Fargo?
Much more involved with investment banking and corporate banking. So it really is the sort of principal player. It's got the largest assets. Now, what is an asset in the case when you talk about a bank? Is a loan that's been advanced. Huge player in depository trusts, huge corporate banker. So people are involved with this company. They advise on transactions. You will see them and their name often when deals of multi-billion dollars are being done, where one healthcare company is buying another or one retailer is buying another. These are the people that provide the funding for said transactions, in addition to advising on them.
So a huge corporate banking element.
Indeed, and a huge player in global bond trading, for example. They provide loans and debts and are a principal issuer, partner, and initial principal market trader of almost every major nation. So what that means is when a company or country wants to issue bonds, they'll place them all with JP Morgan. They'll place them further in the market. So you can just imagine all of the ways that money is made from money. These guys are front and center there.
Now, I want to understand, with the recent investigation that you've done into the space, Wells Fargo stood out, especially with Warren Buffett's endorsement. JP Morgan, from an investment perspective?
Well, look, the big four banks in the United States are these two that we've mentioned as well, and then also Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Citigroup. So Citigroup is the least impressive of them currently and has battled. Bank of America, Merrill Lynch has got a more kind of global presence because of Merrill Lynch's historic involvement, but is also, again, more involved with equities, trading, and securities and so on. I don't know, it's a close call. But for me, anyway, the idea that you don't want any surprises.
Before we go there, let's look at the share price before you give me any more detail. Look at the share price.
Looking good. So you can see not quite as strong as Wells Fargo, but certainly looking pretty solid and moving upwards and to the right, attracting a fairly heavy premium in the market.
But it is slightly less expensive than Wells Fargo.
Indeed, but that could also be a reflection of the market's just sort of residual anxiety that, given the scale of the investment banking activity and some of the other sort of trading type stuff that has happened inside of this, that it may be somewhat more prone to earnings related adjustments going forward. I mean, it's also worth noting that there are other banks like Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley, which are, if anything, even more involved and oriented towards investment banking, and accordingly would have greater earnings volatility than the guys we talked about.
But this is the heavyweight.
Certainly JP Morgan is a heavyweight on all of our global screens.
Are you calling it hot or not?
You know, I think it's hot as well, because at a 12 PE, that's not really particularly demanding. And I think they are going to be successful in managing this dilemma in the years ahead between appropriate degrees of regulation, compliance, and not making any mistakes, and still being able to lower their costs. A couple of % off on their cost-to-income ratio is a huge profit kicker for these organizations.